News. Malacañang maintains that deployment ban on overseas Filipino workers to Kuwait remains despite the arrest of the employers of Joanna Demafelis. The Food and Drugs Administration affirms Sanofi Pasteurs' liability for not disclosing Dengvaxia's negative effects if administered prior to dengue infection. And price increase on liquefied petroleum gas and other oil products will take effect next week. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. During a House inquiry today, the Food and Drugs Administration affirms Sanofi Pasteurs' liability in the government's dengue immunization program. Here's why from Grace Casit.
We visited some of the documents of Singapore recently. With their publication, they already announced that it is not to be used for patients who hadn't had dengue.
The Food and Drugs Administration, or FDA, says the French pharmaceutical company Sanofi Pasteurs did not initially disclose the negative effects of Dengvaxia vaccine to people without prior dengue infection.
Ibig sabihin, alam na nila, dapat December 22, 2015, alam na nila at dapat sinabi na nila sa Pilipinas na hindi ito pwede sa mga batang hindi pa nagkakaroon ng dengue.
This has also been the claim of former President Benigno Aquino III in his first appearance in the inquiry of the lower house on the controversial anti-dengue vaccine. Aquino explains he approved the use of the Dengvaxia due to the information he received from Sanofi that the anti-dengue vaccine was safe and approved by the FDA. The former chief executive sends his condolences to the families of children whose deaths are being linked to Dengvaxia.
Ito pong usaping to, may dumating na impormasyon, 2017 na po, Nobyembre pa, at baliktad doon sa tila hinarap sa amin nung kami po ay nagdedesisyon.
Aquino also made insinuations about an individual he said was pretending to be a health expert and examines the alleged victims of Dengvaxia. Although the former president did not give a name, Public Attorney's Office or PAO Chief Persida Acosta defended her forensic expert, Dr. Edwin Erfe.
Lalo na po may isang maingay na ang certification ay tila isang antas lamang sa nabibiling diploma sa rekto.
Siya po ay forensic and medical evidence analysis forensic examiner. May certificate po siya sa Harvard. Ayan po, hindi po naman mabibili yung certificate sa Harvard. Talagang paghihirapan mo po yan.
In the House inquiry, former Health Secretary Janet Garin insisted anew that they allowed the use of Dengvaxia anti-dengue vaccine under the Aquino administration due to the rising number of dengue cases in regions 3, 4A, and National Capital Region.
Layunin po ng programang ito na hindi lamang po pigilan ang mga namamatay at patuloy na namamatay sa dengue, kundi pigilan po ang magkakasakit sa dengue. Next slide.
Incumbent Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III meantime seeks for the immediate conclusion of the House inquiry, noting it only creates fear among the public to the other vaccination program of the agency.
Worry here, Your Honors, is really, are we ready to have outbreaks of measles, of diphtheria, pertussis, of hepatitis, of HPV, all of these? So I think that we have to be mindful of the implications of a very prolonged investigation.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald De La Rosa orders the PNP Health Service Unit to monitor the condition of the 14,000 policemen who received Dengvaxia. According to General De La Rosa, even a security aide received the controversial anti-dengue vaccine.
I have instructed the health service na Hindi lang yung security ko, pati lahat ng mga pulis natin na naturukan. Magkakaroon tayo ng malawakang monitoring.
The said policeman underwent Dengvaxia vaccination in September and November of last year. An investigation is expected against the suspects in the killing of Filipina domestic worker Joanna Demafelis. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
Authorities have arrested the suspects in the killing of Joanna Demafelis, the Overseas Filipino Worker or OFW, found dead inside a freezer at an apartment in Kuwait. In a statement, the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA says couple Nader Essam Asaf and Mona Hasun, a Syrian national, are now under the custody of the Lebanese authorities. The former employers of Demafelis were nabbed in Syria after fleeing Kuwait. They were immediately arrested after the Kuwaiti government sought the help of Interpol to immediately capture them. Meanwhile, Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA Administrator Hans Leo Kakdak went to the home of the Demafelis family to personally inform them about the arrest of the suspects. This development has given hope to Joanna's family in search for justice for the Filipina.
Lubos na nagpapasalamat po kami sa mahal nating Pangulo na si Roa Duterte.
The two suspects will be extradited to Kuwait at the soonest possible time to face charges. With the help of the Philippine Labor Department, the DFA vows to achieve justice for the death of Demafelis. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Malacañang says the OFW deployment ban in Kuwait remains despite the arrest of the employers of Joanna Demafelis. Here's why from Rosalie Cos.
Until justice is attained for the murder of Joanna Demafelis, the deployment ban of Overseas Filipino Workers to Kuwait will remain. This is the stand of the government despite the arrest of Demafelis' employers recently. However, Malacañang still welcomes the arrest of the employers of Joanna by authorities after weeks of manhunt. These are the alleged suspects in the murder of Filipina domestic helper whose remains were found inside a freezer in her employer's apartment in Kuwait.
We would like to see them prosecuted and punished for the murder of Joanna. As of now, the deployment ban stays.
The Department of Labor and Employment says a technical working group will go to Kuwait on February 28 to meet with the Kuwaiti government about the Memorandum of Understanding that will pave the way for the protection of Filipino migrant workers.
Yung DWG natin at bigat DWG nila will meet, discuss, and hopefully agree on a Memorandum of Understanding.
Meanwhile, the PNP Criminal Investigation and Detection Group has already located Our Lady of Mount Carmel Global, the recruitment agency that sent Joanna to Kuwait. However, the office located at room 406 MRS Building, Mabini Street, Ermita, Manila, is already closed when the CIDG arrived. President Rodrigo Duterte also ordered the National Bureau of Investigation to investigate the recruiter of Joanna.
If they will not appear, then they will, of course, they could be taken into custody for investigation. But let's see if they will voluntarily appear.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
Several lawmakers insist the Philippines should have bilateral agreements with other countries that hire Filipino migrant workers. Here's why from Aiko Miguel.
The House Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs and Committee on Labor and Employment support the government's imposition of a total deployment ban on Overseas Filipino Worker or OFW in Kuwait. However, the lawmakers say abuse of Filipino workers happens not only in Kuwait but in other countries as well. With this, they believe the government should also address the situation of Filipino workers in other foreign lands.
We have to identify what are the countries that are seeking the employment of our Filipinos so that we can enter countries where human rights are respected, the pay is also quite high, and there are no abuses.
I found out na ang ano pala natin mga deployed workers natin sa Africa kasi wala tayong mga bilateral is going to maski sa Spain we don't have any bilateral agreement including sa Canada. So I hope that this will be included in the negotiations.
The lower house also passed in third and final reading the House Bill number 6649 or the bill seeking to intensify the pre-departure orientation of Filipino migrant workers.
Without the proper orientation of our OFWs who are leaving, without fully being aware of the cultural dimension of the place that they will work, I would consider them without the proper orientation seminar as dead on arrival.
The lawmakers are hoping the incident involving the death of Demafelis will not happen again. Meanwhile, another proposal regarding OFW rights protection is now pending in the lower house. It is the National Reverse Migration Bill, which seeks to encourage OFWs with expertise in various fields like agriculture, science, engineering, and information technology to return to the Philippines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Residents in several parts of Quezon City, Manila, Malabon, Valenzuela, and Navotas will experience water service interruptions due to Maynilad's maintenance activities. 9 areas of Manila will have no water supply from 11 in the evening tonight to 4 in the morning tomorrow. Beginning 10 p.m. tonight to 4 a.m. tomorrow, several parts of Barangay San Antonio del Monte and Paltok, Quezon City will also have no water service. Also affected are barangays 156 and 162 of Caloocan City, as well as several areas of the Goson Compound, Barangay Longos, and Tunsuya in Malabon City. There will also be water service interruptions in Barangay North Bay Boulevard South in Navotas, and Barangay Karuhatan and General T. De Leon in Valenzuela City. For inquiries, affected residents may contact Maynilad's hotline number 1626. The government is in need of 100,000 construction workers for its Build program. Applicants will undergo training under the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, who will work primarily for the construction of the Metro Manila subway system, flood control system, and other bridges such as in the province of Negros Oriental, Cebu, Bohol, and Leyte, among others. TESDA will also open the application process starting tomorrow. The price of liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, might increase next month, while the increase in the prices of petroleum products will take effect this week. Here's why from Monokson.
Based on the estimates of industry players, prices of liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, might increase by 60 centavos per kilogram, or more than 6 pesos per 11 kilogram of tank next week. This will be the case if the trend in the rates of petroleum products in the world market remains unchanged. Normally, prices of LPG and fuel products simultaneously go up. Ria Martinez, who sells food items outside the school campus, finds this possible increase very troublesome. She buys LPG tanks weekly for her small business. Ria says now she needs to carefully plan her daily expenses to properly budget her small income.
Siyempre, ano na naman, sama sa budget.
However, the Department of Energy, or DOE, also says there may not be any movement in the price of LPG.
Ang nakikita namin na indication talaga kung masusundan yung nangyari sa February ay ganun pa rin, na meron pa ring decrease. So, unless mabago po ito at masundan po yung kaparehong demand sa liquid fuel, which might change the, instead na decrease, ay posible siyang maging increase.
LPG is one of the products affected by the implementation of the Tax Reform Acceleration and Inclusion, or TRAIN law. The new law is expected to lead to an increase of 1 peso per kilogram of LPG this year. The 1 peso increase is aside from the amount that might be imposed when prices in the world market moves. Meanwhile, petroleum prices are expected to go up tomorrow. Prices of diesel will increase by almost 1 peso, while prices of gasoline will go up by more than 50 centavos. Oil firms are also expected to implement more than 1 peso increase in the price of kerosene. The DOE says the oil price hike is due to the movement in the prices of fuel in the world market. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine National Police prepares for manhunt operations against 40 foreign terrorists who allegedly entered the country. And PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa says the New People's Army is now engaged in kidnap for ransom activities. Y News We'll be right back. Stay tuned for Angel Ocaso III. I'm Darlene Basingan. Good evening.
On Y News tonight, the Food and Drugs Administration affirms Sanofi Pasteurs' liability for not disclosing Dengvaxia's negative effects if administered prior to dengue infection. Malacañang maintains that deployment ban on overseas Filipino workers to Kuwait remains despite arrest of the employers of Joanna Demafelis. And transport groups push for a single ticketing system on traffic violations. Good evening. During a House inquiry today, the Food and Drugs Administration affirms Sanofi Pasteurs' liability in the government's dengue immunization program. Here's why from Grace Casin.
Visited some of the documents of Singapore recently. With their publication, they already announced that it is not to be used for patients who hadn't had dengue.
The Food and Drugs Administration, or FDA, says the French pharmaceutical company Sanofi Pasteurs did not initially disclose the negative effects of Dengvaxia vaccine to people without prior dengue infection.
Ibig sabihin, alam na nila, dapat December 22, 2015, alam na nila at dapat sinabi na nila sa Pilipinas na hindi ito pwede sa mga batang hindi pa nagkakaroon ng dengue.
This has also been the claim of former President Benigno Aquino III in his first appearance in the inquiry of the lower house on the controversial anti-dengue vaccine. Aquino explains he approved the use of the Dengvaxia due to the information he received from Sanofi that the anti-dengue vaccine was safe and approved by the FDA. The former chief executive sends his condolences to the families of children whose deaths are being linked to Dengvaxia.
Ito pong usaping to, may dumating na impormasyon, 2017 na po, Nobyembre pa, at baliktad doon sa tila ihinarap sa amin nung kami po ay nagdedesisyon.
Aquino also made insinuations about an individual he said was pretending to be a health expert and examines the alleged victims of Dengvaxia. Although the former president did not give a name, Public Attorney's Office or PAO Chief Persida Acosta defended her forensic expert, Dr. Edwin Erfe.
Lalo na po may isang maingay na ang certification ay tila isang antas lamang sa nabibiling diploma sa rekto.
Siya po ay forensic and medical evidence analysis forensic examiner na may certificate po siya sa Harvard. Ayan po, hindi po naman mabibili yung certificate sa Harvard. Talagang paghihirapan mo po yan.
In the House inquiry, former Health Secretary Janet Garin insisted anew that they allowed the use of Dengvaxia anti-dengue vaccine under the Aquino administration due to the rising number of dengue cases in Regions 3, 4A, and National Capital Region.
Layunin po ng programang ito na hindi lamang po pigilan ang mga namamatay at patuloy na namamatay sa dengue, kundi pigilan po ang magkakasakit sa dengue. Next slide.
Incumbent Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III meantime seeks for the immediate conclusion of the House inquiry, noting it only creates fear among the public to the other vaccination program of the agency.
Worry here, Your Honors, is really, are we ready to have outbreaks of measles, of diphtheria, pertussis, of hepatitis, of HPV, all of these? So I think that we have to be mindful of the implications of a very prolonged investigation.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Malacañang says the OFW deployment ban in Kuwait remains despite the arrest of the employers of Joanna Demafelis. Here's why from Rosalie Cos.
Until justice is attained for the murder of Joanna Demafelis, the deployment ban of overseas Filipino workers to Kuwait will remain. This is the stand of the government despite the arrest of Demafelis' employers recently. However, Malacañang still welcomes the arrest of the employers of Joanna by authorities after weeks of manhunt. These are the alleged suspects in the murder of Filipina domestic helper whose remains were found inside a freezer in her employer's apartment in Kuwait.
We would like to see them prosecuted and punished for the murder of Joanna. As of now, the deployment ban stays.
The Department of Labor and Employment says a technical working group will go to Kuwait on February 28 to meet with the Kuwaiti government about the Memorandum of Understanding that will pave the way for the protection of Filipino migrant workers.
Yung DWG natin at bigat DWG nila will meet, discuss, and hopefully agree on a Memorandum of Understanding.
Meanwhile, the PNP Criminal Investigation and Detection Group has already located Our Lady of Mount Carmel Global, the recruitment agency that sent Joanna to Kuwait. However, the office located at room 406 MRS Building, Mabini Street, Ermita, Manila is already closed when the CIDG arrived. President Rodrigo Duterte also ordered the National Bureau of Investigation to investigate the recruiter of Joanna.
If they will not appear, then they will, of course, they could be taken into custody for investigation. But let's see if they will voluntarily appear.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, with the help of other concerned agencies, will launch manhunt operations against international terrorists who were able to enter the country. The Western Mindanao Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, initially revealed that 40 foreign terrorists entered the Philippines through its back door.
So tutulungan kami lahat, AFP, PNP, and all other intelligence agencies of government. Lahat, pati Coast Guard, pati Navy. Tutulungan kaming bantayan yung ating mga coastline. Kung talaga nandito na sa loob, hahanapin natin. Magkakaroon tayo ng manhunt operation.
Authorities vow to strictly guard off the country's border to prevent terrorists from entering. The PNP calls on the public's cooperation by reporting to them any suspicious individual in their area. PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa says the New People's Army is no longer satisfied with committing extortion. Here's why from Bernard Dadis.
The leader of the New People's Army, or NPA Bulacan chapter, was alleged as the one behind the kidnapping of Rachel Bungay in Laguna in December 2017. It is the same group that allegedly killed Police Superintendent Arthur Masungsong during a police operation to rescue the kidnapped victim. Masungsong was the chief of the Luzon Field Unit of the Philippine National Police Anti-Kidnapping Group, or PNP-AKG. The PNP-AKG made the discovery after it arrested the suspect Donato Jacob, the leader of the NPA Bulacan. Jacob is also the alleged collector of NPA in its extortion of politicians, fish fund owners, and quarry operations in the province. According to PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa, his arrest proves that the communist group is now involved in kidnap for ransom activities.
So, inamin niya na talagang siya ang commander ng beach sa Bulacan, sa NPA. At yung mga kasamahan daw niya, yung kasama doon sa na-involve sa encounter kay Masungsong, yung kidnap for ransom group na yun, puro aktibong membro daw yun ng NPA.
In an encounter, 4 of Jacob's members were killed while the police are still searching for Jesse Buenavista, alias Janjan. The PNP-AKG is also investigating reports that Jacob's advisor is a politician.
Pantay ka pag matapos ng case build-up na binagin sa'yo, uupakan ka namin. Hintay ka lang. Matagal ka na palang involved dito sa kidnapping, ha?
General De La Rosa also presented before the media another kidnapped suspect identified as former soldier Brandal Mark Kakaychan. He was 8 in the wanted list of PNP-AKG due to his involvement in kidnapping cases in 2012 and 2014. Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Several transport groups are appealing to Congress to amend or come up with a law regarding the implementation of a single ticketing system on traffic violations. Joanna will tell us why.
Transportation officials and various transport groups came face-to-face in today's congressional hearing on transportation issues. Among the topics discussed was the ticketing system imposed on erring motorists. Some transport operators argued that there were instances where traffic law enforcers apprehend and charge their drivers even without clear violation. They believe some traffic law enforcers are making money out of apprehending public utility vehicles instead of imposing discipline on the motorists. They say this is what is happening on the government's Tanggal Bulok, Tanggal Uso campaign.
Lagi hong problema namin ng mga driver ko, kahit maliit na bagay lang kung manghuli, grabe. Sobra ho talaga. Minsan, konting diferensya lang na nasira yung upuan, penalty. Medyo yupi lang yung ganito, penalty daw yan. Konting narikap lang, may konting gasgas lang, talagang patong-patong po.
Yung mga ahensya ng gobyerno natin, ginawa talagang gatas ang baka itong traffic enforcement.
Because of this, the proposal to come up with a single ticketing system was again tackled in the hearing, wherein different traffic city ordinances will be incorporated into one traffic law or regulation that will be applicable to all. According to former MMDA chairman and now Marikina 1st District Representative Bayani Fernando, it will be better if the MMDA will solely be in charge in imposing traffic rules in the entire country instead of giving the power to the local government units. He argues that this will prevent confusion among motorists.
Tangi lamang ang MMDA na sa buong Pilipinas, ang Metro Manila lang ang merong sariling traffic rules. Ayon sa batas, all others, lahat ng local government, probinsya, munisipyo, barangay, hindi pwedeng magawa ng sariling traffic rules nila sapagkat maguguluhan ang mga motorista. That's the practical reason.
Joanna, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
This year's celebration of the People Power anniversary is far different from the traditional. Here's why from Bernard Dadis.
Instead of the signature yellow EDSA color, the venue was filled with red, white and blue confetti. The National Historical Commission of the Philippines says the change of color was intentional.
Kung babalikan po natin yung EDSA, ang kwan talaga natin doon pagkakaisa. So, iniwasan talaga namin yung color coding. Kaya ginamit namin kulay ngayon ay kulay ng bandila.
It was the second time President Rodrigo Duterte skipped the celebration. But in his EDSA anniversary statement, the chief executive calls on unity and solidarity towards protecting the country's democracy, strengthening the rights of the people. Meanwhile, Vice President Leni Robredo opted to celebrate the occasion in Naga City. Former President Benigno Aquino III and known EDSA figures were also absent in the event except for former President Fidel Ramos, who served as the guest speaker. He was given the People Power Heroes Award for his notable contribution in the 1986 EDSA Revolution. Other personalities who were accorded in the event were Melvin Gaa, who died in the NCC Mall fire after he rescued to safety a number of trapped victims. Captain Michael Aristores, who did a major part to end the Marawi siege, as well as PO3 Christopher Lalan of the Special Action Force, who was part of the team who captured and killed terrorist Zulkifli Abdhir alias Marwan. Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The spirit of the EDSA People Power might be fading in the hearts of some Filipinos, but according to a political analyst, its celebration must be retained every year. Monokson will tell us why.
In 1986, millions of Filipinos marched in EDSA to evict a dictator. In a peaceful manner that amazed the whole world, Filipinos succeeded in reclaiming democracy in the country. But Edmund Tayao, a political analyst, says it looks like the spirit of EDSA is slowly fading in the hearts of some Filipinos. Tayo adds that there are some who capitalize on the people power for political gains.
Masyadong nabigyan ng kulay ang EDSA at parang naging limitado yung pagtanaw dito bilang parte ng kasaysayan natin na kumbaga para lang sa isang partikular na grupong politikal na hindi dapat sana yung ganun na nakikita.
UNTV News and Rescue went around Metro Manila and asked the public on what they know about EDSA.
Alsada.
Po yung parang people power, yung ganun po. Tas yung parang basta yun, ganun.
Traffic lagi, EDSA.
Hindi ko kasi alam yun, sir.
EDSA. Kay EDSA revolution niya kay Ninoy.
But according to Tayaw, the true spirit of EDSA is the unity of all Filipinos. He says that even though some people are no longer familiar with the EDSA people power, it is important that the country commemorates it every year.
Hindi naman natin dapat itigil yung pag-celebrate noon, pero habang sineselebrate natin kumbaga pinagninilayan pa din natin ano ba talaga yung naging significance nito at nasa na ba tayo ngayon, ano ba talaga ang naging contribution ng pagkakaroon ng EDSA noong 1986.
However, if there are some who forgot, there are still others who still have the spirit of EDSA in their hearts.
Importante yun, magkaisa tayo. Pero kung hindi magkakaisa, ganun pa rin ang situation natin. Ang dami ng mga nangyari na sa atin noon, di ba? Di naman tayo natututo.
Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
An ASOP Year 3 Grand Finalist will compete once again in this year's ASOP Grand Finals. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Oliver Narag was reminded of his past when he won in last night's Isang of Praise or ASOP February monthly finals. Oliver is the composer of ASOP Year 3 Grand Finals NP, Kisla.
Halos pares na pares yung nangyari dahil sa Kislap na nanalo ko sa Visitors Peak tapos nakapasok ng Grand Finals. Ganun din nangyari dito. Ang kaibahan lang talaga mas hindi na ako kinakabahan ngayon kasi pangalawa ko na at na-enjoy ko na talaga.
Oliver also says his win was timely.
Ang pera na makukuha ko, mga tulong sa pagpapagaling ng anak ko kasi matagal yung gamutan niya. Dahil meron siyang tubig sa baga. Ayun. Kaya salamat kay Lord sa blessing na to kasi sakto. Tama sinabi niya, wag kang bibitiw. Kasi andyan lang siya, lagi.
Jessa May Gabon is also thankful for the song's impact to her.
With this kind of song, nare-relieve talaga lahat ng pressure, ganyan, nakakalimutan ko. At parang nare-remind ako na, yun, meron tayong God na dapat hindi ka na-pressure kasi meron tayong God na sasalo.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. Health experts believe expanded maternity leave bill is key to prevent high Philippine maternal mortality. And 15 pesos increase in NBI clearance fee to take effect on March 12. Stay tuned for William Theo. I'm Angelo Castro III, and this is Y News. Good evening.
Here are the headlines on Y News tonight. Malacañang maintains that deployment ban on overseas Filipino workers to Kuwait remains despite arrest of the employers of Joanna Demafelis. The Food and Drugs Administration affirms Sanofi Pasteurs' liability for not disclosing Dengvaxia's negative effects if administered prior to dengue infection. And the Department of Finance insists that increase in prices of goods in the first 2 months of 2018 is not due to train law. Good evening. Malacañang says the OFW deployment ban in Kuwait remains despite the arrest of the employers of Joanna Demafelis. Here's why from Rosalie Cots.
Until justice is attained for the murder of Joanna Demafelis, the deployment ban of overseas Filipino workers to Kuwait will remain. This is the stand of the government despite the arrest of Demafelis' employers recently. However, Malacañang still welcomes the arrest of the employers of Joanna by authorities after weeks of manhunt. These are the alleged suspects in the murder of Filipina domestic helper whose remains were found inside a freezer in her employer's apartment in Kuwait.
We would like to see them prosecuted and punished for the murder of Joanna. As of now, the deployment ban stays.
The Department of Labor and Employment says a technical working group will go to Kuwait on February 28 to meet with the Kuwaiti government about the Memorandum of Understanding that will pave the way for the protection of Filipino migrant workers.
Yung PWG natin at bigang PWG nila will meet, discuss, and hopefully agree on a Memorandum of Understanding.
Meanwhile, the PNP Criminal Investigation and Detection Group has already located Our Lady of Mount Carmel Global, the recruitment agency that sent Joanna to Kuwait. However, the office located at room 406 MRS Building, Mabini Street, Ermita, Manila, is already closed when the CIDG arrived. President Rodrigo Duterte also ordered the National Bureau of Investigation to investigate the recruiter of Joanna.
If they will not appear, then they will, of course, they could be taken into custody for investigation. But let's see if they will voluntarily appear.
Rosalie Coz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
Meanwhile, during a House inquiry today, the Food and Drugs Administration affirms Sanofi Pasteurs' liability in the government's dengue immunization program. Here's why from Grace Casid.
We visited some of the documents of Singapore recently. With their publication, they already announced that it is not to be used for patients who hadn't had dengue.
The Food and Drugs Administration, or FDA, says the French pharmaceutical company Sanofi Pasteurs did not initially disclose the negative effects of Dengvaxia vaccine to people without prior dengue infection.
Ibig sabihin, alam na nila, dapat December 22, 2015, alam na nila at dapat sinabi na nila sa Pilipinas na hindi ito pwede sa mga batang hindi pa nagkakaroon ng dengue.
This has also been the claim of former President Benigno Aquino III in his first appearance in the inquiry of the lower house on the controversial anti-dengue vaccine. Aquino explains he approved the use of the Dengvaxia due to the information he received from Sanofi that the anti-dengue vaccine was safe and approved by the FDA. The former chief executive sends his condolences to the families of children whose deaths are being linked to Dengvaxia.
Ito pong usaping to, may dumating na impormasyon, 2017 na po, Nobyembre pa, at baliktad doon sa hinarap sa amin nung kami po ay nagdedesisyon.
Aquino also made insinuations about an individual he said was pretending to be a health expert and examines the alleged victims of Dengvaxia. Although the former president did not give a name, Public Attorney's Office or PAO Chief Persida Acosta defended her forensic expert, Dr. Edwin Erfe.
Lalo na po may isang maingay na ang certification ay tila isang antas lamang sa nabibiling diploma sa rekto.
Siya po ay Forensic and Medical Evidence Analysis Forensic Examiner. May certificate po siya sa Harvard. Ayan po, hindi po naman mabibili yung certificate sa Harvard. Talagang paghihirapan mo po yan.
In the House inquiry, former Health Secretary Janet Garin insisted anew that they allowed the use of Dengvaxia anti-dengue vaccine under the Aquino administration due to the rising number of dengue cases in Regions 3, 4A, and National Capital Region.
Layunin po ng programang ito na hindi lamang po pigilan ang mga namamatay at patuloy na namamatay sa dengue, kundi pigilan po ang magkakasakit sa dengue. Next slide.
Incumbent Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III meantime seeks for the immediate conclusion of the House inquiry, noting it only creates fear among the public to the other vaccination program of the agency.
Worry here, Your Honors, is really are we ready to have outbreaks of measles, of diphtheria, pertussis, of hepatitis, of HPV, all of these? So I think that we have to be mindful of the implications of a very prolonged investigation.
Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Health professionals express support to Senate Bill 1305, or the 120-day expanded maternity leave bill. Experts believe the said bill may be the key in preventing high maternal mortality in the country. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
The World Health Organization reports that more than 800 women die every day due to pregnancy and childbirth-related complications worldwide. In 2015, around 114 women died in every 100,000 live births in the Philippines. However, health professionals believe this can be prevented through an expanded maternity leave. This is why they express support to Senate Bill 1305, or the 120-day expanded maternity leave bill. The group explains that the country's current 60-day maternity leave policy is not sufficient to ensure full recovery for mothers after giving birth.
And there are physiologic changes which can be very devastating to the woman, especially when she is a first-timer.
It is also necessary for mothers to breastfeed their child for 6 months, as recommended by childbirth experts, to prevent newborn deaths.
Major reason why mothers opt to discontinue breastfeeding is because they will go back to work.
The bill is now approved in the Senate's third and final reading. The approval of its version in the House of Representatives is still pending. Experts say the Philippines is the only country in the Asian region that has 60-day maternity leave period. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Top economic managers deny that tax reform for acceleration and inclusion or train law caused the almost 4% increase in the price of goods and commodities in the first 2 months of the year. Here's why from Mai Bermudez.
Overall inflation rate has reached to almost 4% in January. This had been noticeably higher from the 3.3% recorded rate in December 2017, based on the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA data. Before the implementation of train law, a liter of diesel has an average cost of 33 pesos. Now there is a recorded increase of 9 pesos when it was implemented in January. But according to top economic officials, train law is not the cause of the increase in prices of some basic commodities such as oil and meat.
I think there was quite an appreciable rise in the price of rice. And this has to do also with the fact that there was some disarray in the way our rice stocks were handled, including importation and whatever buffer we had with NFA.
The price hike, they say, can also be attributed to the increase in price of Dubai crude, peso depreciation, and to natural calamities.
And then the other items, food items, where we saw accelerated inflation were on meat, fish. I suppose with respect to the meat, it has also to do with the increased prices in corn. And then fruits and vegetables, and this was also due to the typhoons, the lingering effect of the typhoons.
In DTI and DOE, they have mechanisms naman for the public to inform them kung may nagsasamantala. Kasi yung DTI meron ding regular price monitoring. So far wala naman silang nakikita. At yung mga sinabihan nila na medyo mas mataas sa SRP, nag-adjust naman sila downwards.
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Meanwhile, the fee for the National Bureau of Investigation or NBI clearance will increase next month. Based on the advisory of NBI, applicants will have to pay 130 pesos from the current 115 pesos for the said document beginning March 12. The agency explains the increase is due to the implementation of the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion or train law. National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon admits that there are instances when Chinese researchers had illegally entered the Philippine Rise. But Esperon clarifies that it doesn't mean that China can freely do what it wants to do in the said territory. Mai Bermudez will tell us why.
The research groups of China were able to name Jinghao Seamount, which is within the Philippine EEZ. That does not mean that they have jurisdiction and sovereignty over that seamount.
This was the statement of National Security Advisor Secretary Hermogenes Esperon in connection with the discovery of 5 underwater sea features in the Philippine rice, which China had reportedly named. Esperon maintains that every marine scientific research, or MSR, that will be conducted should have a permit issued by the National Maritime Research Institute, or NAMRIA. Included in the rule is the inclusion of Filipino scientists that will accompany foreign researchers in the area. But there's an instance when China slipped in 2016.
So they admitted that they went into our territory without the necessary permits.
If I get it right, conducted MSR in our area in 2004.
Yes, na wala pong permit.
It did not go through the process. They had no permit. So that ship, in fact, as a result of that research, they filed for naming of names, and this is now, those were filed in May 2016.
There's also an instance when a Chinese agency was not accompanied by scientists from the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute for the whole duration of the research due to lack of funds.
So out of the 1 month na nandyan po sila na nagre-research, ilang araw po yung meron tayong Pilipino na nasa mga barko po nila?
Itong last was may in-arrange through DFA, may 3 days sila. Hindi naman po sila 30 days na sa Philippine EEZ. Okay. It was only around 6 days.
Due to the said violations, approval on any request for marine scientific researches in the Benham rice shall be sought from the Office of the President instead of the National Maritime Research Institute. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Apart from entertainment, Filipinos benefit from pop band Steven Speaks' Alive to Fight tour in the country. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Who's after all your things?
90s pop band Steven Speaks is back in the Philippines to promote his latest single, Alive to Fight.
So you better let him know that you remain alive to fight.
The song debuted on radio on Wish FM.
Look at her.
Steven Speaks also took Wishers back in time with some of the band's biggest singles. Passenger Seat.
When I've got all that I need, right here in the passenger seat.
And Out of My League.
And my voice shakes along with my hands. She's all that I see and she's all that I need. I'm out of my league once again.
Apart from sharing his music, the band's frontman Rockwell Ryan Ripperger is also here for charity.
I did a benefit tour for the Marawi, the soldiers of Marawi. Actually went to Fort Bonifacio and sung for the wounded soldiers and the rest of the army. And then we're also donating a portion of our ticket sales to them to help them rebuild and support the people who fought there.
Ripperger even wanted to help in coral reef rehabilitation in Concepcion, Iloilo.
So I went down to Iloilo and I went snorkeling on the beaches, and they have some very beautiful corals, and there was a lot of dead coral. And I said I'm going to talk to some of the government officials here and see if I can set up a little reef restoration garden and show them how to take fragments and grow them out and put them back on and kind of rebuild the reef. So we've been working on that, and I'm pretty excited about that too.
Steven Speaks promised his fans to return to the country in September.
And I look at her and I have to smile as we go driving for a while.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
And those are the reasons behind the news. February 26, 2018, I am William Theo. And because we need to know, we will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.